Welcome to day 6 of a very jelly Christmas. We're nearly at the big day, so let's make sure the tree looks extra special for Santa. So I'm going to be making some embroidered felt decorations. Off camera, I designed 3 different decorations for this craft, creating the templates using simple layered shapes. You can of course do any items, characters or shapes you like, but if you want to follow this video, I've put these templates onto my website. The link will be in the description. Going through my felt collection again, I picked out the colours I wanted, and then cut out the template shapes, matching the templates to the coloured felt I wanted. Pin the templates to the felt, and then cut out the shapes, using sharp scissors and going carefully and slowly around any more complex shapes and corners. Once all the shapes were cut out, I layered up the felt to check the shapes were correct. So I had the gingerbread house, a Christmas pudding, and a little robin. Next, I cut out a square of felt I wanted to use as a background, much bigger than the decoration, so I had room to play with. We'll trim this down later. Now to start sewing. I used my sewing machine to freehand embroider the larger parts of the decorations to the base, but you could definitely just hand sew these into place if you wanted. I used a contrasting thread too, as I like this bit to stand out. Don't worry about what the back of the piece looks like, we'll be hiding this later. Start with the bottom layer of the decoration. So for the Christmas pudding, sew the brown pudding base onto the background, making sure to leave enough room around for the other layers. I then used my machine again to sew the icing on top of the pudding base. Now to hand sew on the extra details. To start with the leaves, I started by adding a few running stitches along the middle of one leaf. When I got to the end of the leaf, add a few stitches back down the centre, then start to add to the pudding, continuing the running stitch down the leaf, but just stitching through the pudding and the background too. Do the same thing for the other leaf on the opposite side. For the third leaf, I just started by stitching through the leaf and the background, then when you get halfway down, stop stitching through the pudding and only stitch through the leaf. And do the opposite on the way back down the leaf. This way the leaves are attached to the pudding but are free at the ends to give a slightly more 3D effect. For the berries, just add a few simple stitches to the centre of the berry through the pudding, repeating for all 3 berries. For the other 2 decorations, I used my machine again to sew down the larger base pieces. For the robin, I stitched on the beak, tucking the end of the beak behind the body a little and stitching down the beak centre to give a little more detail. Now, I am not an embroidery expert, but I thought I would try out a stitch called a French knot for the eye, and I really loved it, but it took a little bit of practice, so I'd recommend looking up a tutorial from an embroidery expert if you want to give it a go too. Lastly, stitch on some little legs in a brown thread, making sure to stitch as close under the body as you can so his legs aren't just floating. For the gingerbread house, I stitched the door to the door frame and added a French knot doorknob too. I stitched the door frame to the background, the windows were stitched to the window frames, and then onto the house with a simple running stitch. Now you could end here, but I wanted to add some extra embellishments, so I got these white sequins. I added a few randomly around the Christmas pudding, decided to add just a line of sequins to either side of the gingerbread house, and then finally added the robin's white breast. I stitched these with just a white thread, holding them down with 2 stitches around the sequin. Cut some more felt the same size and colour as the background. As these are for the tree, I wanted to add a thin ribbon for the hanging loop. I wasn't sure how I wanted to finish the pieces at this point, so I just cut the top of the pudding to see where the ribbon would sit. Cut the ribbon to the length you like, and tuck it into the top of the decoration. I then decided how I wanted to finish the decorations, so holding the 2 pieces of background together, trim off the excess, leaving a centimetre or so around all the shapes. Pin the 2 background pieces together, and then using a blanket stitch to close the 2 pieces together. Again, I would recommend looking up tutorials for any stitches if you're new to embroidery. Just before you get back to the start, leave a small gap and stuff a small amount of stuffing into the centre, making it as plump as you like. Once you're happy with the stuffing level, finish your blanket stitch to close up the decoration. Repeat the same for all the decorations you are making, and hang them straight onto your Christmas tree. And that is day 6 complete. There's endless possibilities for what you could make into a bauble like these. I can't believe there's only one more to go in our very jelly Christmas, and it's a special one. So make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you for an extra special very jelly Christmas tomorrow.